The newest refuse truck in the Mack lineup is the low cab forward LR model. LR stands for low, meaning the height of the cab, and R for refuse. The LR chassis I drove was equipped with a 20-yard Heil half-pack Odyssey residential front loader. It was probably the most unusual truck I've driven for some time. It steered and handled differently because I sat ahead of the steer axle, and the driving position is very close to the ground compared to a typical highway or vocational truck. Equipment editor Jim Park here. Today I'm in Allentown, Pennsylvania with Mack's new LR model. The truck is equipped with a 355 horsepower Mack MP7 engine and an Allison 4500 RDS 6-speed transmission. It has a 20,000-pound Mack FXL20 steer axle and a 46,000-pound M-Ride rear suspension. It also has Meritor EX Plus air disc brakes at all wheel positions. My escort, Mack's vocational brand manager Curtis Dorwart, took me from Mack's customer center through a residential neighborhood so we could simulate trash collection and then out onto the highway for a few miles to simulate a trip to a landfill site. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to take the LR just around the block, so to speak. Do a little bit of driving with it to see what the driving position's actually like. It's obviously quite a bit different from most of the highway trucks that I get to drive. I'm sitting out in front of the steering axle for one thing, which makes steering interesting. Because you're sitting out ahead of the steer axle, you've got the added benefit of being able to keep the cab entry low, close to the ground, so the driver doesn't have to climb up into the truck. It's literally a step off the curb into the cab, then sling your butt into the seat, and away we go. So this large hump beside me here, the control panel, also doubles as an engine tunnel, and I'm actually sitting right beside the Mack MP7 355 engine. It's a 2017 trim, obviously, the GHG emissions configuration, and part of that strategy is a multiple injection event, which helps make the engine much quieter, the combustion noise a lot less harsh. So we're sitting in the truck here driving around now. Obviously I can hear the engine, more than aware that it's there, but it's an awful lot quieter than I would have thought sitting this close to it. The challenge in a neighborhood is not maneuverability, but visibility. The steering on the LR is remarkably easy, but drivers do need to watch for parked cars, bicycles, kids darting about, and the ever-present overhead wires and tree limbs. You know, again, for me, it's what's going on overhead is fairly intuitive, but in this particular case, I didn't want to get in too tight against those trees because I did not look up and do a good enough check before I went into it. Didn't want to knock somebody's tree down or do any damage to the front of the truck, but obviously overhead is something you got to worry about. This truck is 13.6 tall with the box, so not a lot of margin for error there. Even when empty, the steer axle is close to its rated weight. As it fills up, the load transfers to the drive axle and the ride smooths out. But the seat suspension in the LR was just amazing. We're sort of simulating a highway drive here now in this truck. If we were heading out to a transfer site after making our pickups, the suspension is nice, and it does feel different sitting out in front of the wheel because you tend to sitting on the end of a fulcrum. Bounces a little bit, but the suspension in this truck is really nice. The way they've got the driver's seat set up is quite smooth and really pleasant to work with. This is a ripply section of I-78 here, but it's not that bad at all. Whoa! That was a good one there. Yeah, we got good suspension. After about 90 minutes in the truck, I was sold on the handling and the visibility. Driving it was a cinch, and it's pretty comfortable too. As for the trash pickup part, I think I'll stick to magazines and videos.
Now you're an experienced refuse truck driver.
Yeah, but I sure wouldn't want to try and make a living at it just yet. It'd take me a few months to get into that.
We're always looking for drivers.
Yeah, I know.
And really, it's not a bad gig. You're home every night. You know, pays pretty good.
Yep.
Most of these major companies have pretty good benefits, so.
Oh yeah, once you got the routine figured out, I think it might take you a week or two to turn here.
Yeah. Sorry.
Like which way to move the controls when you want the bucket to tip versus go out.
The whole thing is don't hit anything.
Yeah.
There's also a lot of situational awareness as well, like when we were in the cul-de-sac and stuff like that.
Yep.
You know, kids like big trucks, and they're very cognizant of children at play and all those things that are going on, plus cars. And so there's a lot of responsibility.
My limited experience with refuse trucks precludes any sort of expert opinion, but I think the LR is the kind of refuge truck I'd want to drive if I had to. Mack spent a lot of time listening to what customers wanted in such a truck, and based on order intake numbers, they seem to have got it right. Hey, and while you're here, check out our little video on how to operate the LR. You'll see my proficiency at trash collection. At the Mack Customer Center in Allentown, Pennsylvania, I'm Equipment Editor Jim Park.